has many uses. You can use it for free motion quilting, darning, monogramming, sewing on patches, and many other things. To attach this foot, I'm going to take this little finger and place it over the needle clamp. And of course, the other part goes on my shank, and I'm going to go ahead and tighten that in. Make sure it's on there really good. You don't want it to fall off while you're sewing. My next step is to disengage the feed dog. So I'm going to just reach around the back of my machine and drop them down. Now your machine may be different, so go ahead and refer to your instruction manual. By disengaging the feed dogs, this allows me freedom of movement so I can take my material and go in any direction I'd like. So as I sew, the way I think of this is I think of my needle as a pencil and the fabric as paper. So you cannot move your pencil, so you move your paper. My first thing I'm going to do is some monogramming. Now when I start, I go ahead and put a line on my fabric, and you can use a water-soluble ink, a disappearing ink, a chalk, whatever works best for you. But whenever you do any kind of monogramming or free motion embroidery, any kind of fill, you want to keep your material horizontal, so that line keeps me horizontal. So keeping everything on the horizon will make it a lot easier for you. Now I'm going to do a couple letters. I'm probably going to do like the letter J, and I'll do an M as well. If you wanted to, you could also use your water-soluble, disappearing ink, etc. to mark your letters. Now what I want to do is I want to bring both of my thread tails to the top. I want to do that because I don't want my thread tail underneath moving around under the material. It's a lot easier to clip it when you have it on top and together with the other one. Let's go ahead and bring our needle thread and bobbin thread both to the top. And there it is. Now for a monogram, I really want to adjust my width, so I'm going to take it off a straight stitch and put it on a zigzag. Your stitch length is north and south, your width is west and east, left and right. So if you want to make a narrower stitch, you can. If you want to make a wider stitch, you can. I'm going to go ahead and go to my zigzag, and I'm going to put my width, I'm going to put it on about 3. Now since we've disengaged the feed dogs, we become the stitch length. They are no longer in use, so we are the stitch length. So rule of thumb is moderately fast with the foot control and slow with your hand. So I'm going to draw with my needle. So there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and speed up, because the faster you go, the fuller you're stitching. And like I said, I'm going to go ahead and do a letter J. Let's see how slow I'm moving the material. That will allow my stitches to fill in, covering the material, making a nice satin stitch. And of course, you can use any kind of thread you want. If you wanted a prettier effect, you can use monofilament or a metallic, a satin stitching thread, variegated. And then when you come to the end, you just want to sew in place a few stitches to secure your design, your letter. And there's my letter J. So we'll go ahead and we'll do one more. Now if you notice, I went a little too fast in some places, but you can always go back over it and refill it. But use a wider width next time so you don't have an overlap. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and do the letter M. And again, like I said, moderately fast with foot control and slow with your hand. And just like anything else, the more you do it, the better you get. And I don't know why I'm doing an M, but maybe somebody who's watching this video, his name might be Mary or Martha, or maybe you have a Mike in your family. And there you go. There's our M. Show you is free motion monogramming. What I've done is I've taken and I've placed a horizontal line across my material. When you do free motion monogramming, you do not want to spin your fabric. In doing so, you would have an unusual looking pattern. It would not be a letter. You need to keep the fabric horizontal, so the line is going to guide us. Secondly, I want to take and bring both of my thread tails to the top. I don't want to have my bobbin thread be bopping underneath, moving around, because then it's a lot harder to take out after you've sewn than it is to take out at the beginning. So to start, I want to go ahead and put my machine on a zigzag. The stitch length doesn't matter because I am the stitch length. I've disengaged the feed dogs, so I need to move the material. Now I want to think of my needle as a pencil, and I want to think of the fabric as paper. Well, I can't move the pencil, so I'm going to move the paper. And again, I'm going to keep my material horizontal. When you're doing a straight stitch, you can move your material in any direction. When you're doing a zigzag, you want to keep your material horizontal. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, and I think I'm going to go ahead and do the letter J. So it's moderately fast with the foot control and slow with the hand. And if you notice, I'm not spinning the fabric. If you're doing this at home and you want to see what happens when you spin the fabric, go right ahead. But really keep your material horizontal. Hence that little line right there. And of course, at this point, I can go ahead and clip out my thread tails, or when I come to the end of my letter. And there we go. And of course, you can use metallic threads. You can use really pretty embroidery threads to get yourself a new effect. Now again, I can clip off my thread tails. And there we go. A perfect letter J. This is another great technique you can use with the embroidery darning foot. This is called quilt stippling or free motion quilting. And like I said earlier, or if you're doing monogramming, you want to keep your material horizontal. When you're doing free motion, you don't need to. But really, rule of thumb is moderately fast with the foot control and slow with your hand. Your stitches may be a little bit, some might be a little bit longer and some might be a little bit shorter when you first start, but it becomes moderately fast with the foot control and slow with your hand. And this gives you more control. See how that works? Secondly, you do not want to cross over any other lines because it changes it from stippling to more like scribbling or dribbling. But you can see how easy that is.